fortunate to have with us one of the most important voices of the growing worldwide effort to learn the truth about the events of 9/11. Among her other contributions, Barbara Honegger is the visionary artist behind both the Boston Tea Party for 9/11 Truth and the Third Beam, which symbolized Building 7 that she organized in New York City on the 9th anniversary of 9/11. And that has become the icon for architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, as well as the 9/11 Truth movement worldwide. Barbara is also a national whistleblower. She served as White House policy analyst and special assistant for domestic policy in the Reagan-Bush senior administration, where she was the first to resign as a matter of conscience. She then wrote her groundbreaking book, October Surprise, revealing the Iran part of the Iran-Contra scandal. Her book led to a full-scale subpoena-powered investigation, as well as a cover story in Newsweek magazine. Barbara then worked from 2000 to 2011 as senior military affairs journalist at the Naval Postgraduate School, the premier science, technology, and national affairs graduate research university of the Department of Defense. In this position, she had access to the highest level civilian and military officials of the Bush-Cheney administration, helping her to get the real story of the 9/11 Pentagon attack. She published her findings in the Pentagon Attack Papers, which was republished in Jim Marr's best-selling book on 9/11 called The Terror Conspiracy. Professor David Ray Griffin has said of her findings that they would change the discussion of what happened on 9/11. Ms. Honegger has also done pioneering investigative work on the war games exercises taking place on 9/11, as well as the anthrax attacks. She's one of the founding members of Patriots Question 9/11 and a charter member of Political Leaders for 9/11 Truth. Currently, she's completing a book on the Pentagon attack. Please welcome Barbara Honegger.
Lawrence Wilkerson, who was Chief of Staff to Secretary of State Colin Powell in the Bush-Cheney administration, about this same coup said, "It's not a coup, it's worse." This is how retired four-star U.S. Army General and top NATO commander Wesley Clark put it in a 2003 public address at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco.
What happened in 9/11 is we didn't have a strategy, we didn't have bipartisan agreement, we didn't have American understanding of it, and we had instead a policy coup in this country. A coup, a policy coup. Some hard-nosed people took over the direction of American policy, and they never bothered to inform the rest of us. Then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, "Oh, sir," he says, "it's worse than that." He said, he pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, "I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office that says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran." I sat on this information for a long time, for about 6 or 8 months. I was so stunned by this I couldn't begin to talk about it. And I couldn't believe it would really be true, but that's actually what happened. These people took control of the policy in the United States. And I realized then, it came back to me, a 1991 meeting I had with Paul Wolfowitz. You know, in 2001 he was Deputy Secretary of Defense, but in 1991 he was the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. It's the number 3 position in the Pentagon. It was a pretty stunning thing. You mean, the purpose of the military is to start wars and change governments? It's not to sort of deter conflict? We're going to invade countries? And you know, my mind was spinning. And I put that aside. It was like a nugget that you hold on to. This country was taken over by a group of people with a policy coup. Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld, and you could name a half dozen other collaborators from the Project for a New American Century. They wanted us to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, make it under our control. It went back to those comments in 1991. Now, did anybody ever tell you that? Was there a national dialogue on this? Did senators and congressmen stand up and denounce this plan? Was there a full-fledged American debate on it? Absolutely not. And there still isn't.
The truth is, our government was and still is penetrated and controlled by a Zionist Israeli fifth column that took over the White House, the Congress, the military-civilian superstructure, key military officers and intelligence personnel, and the mainstream media leading up to, on, and after 9/11. The level and extent of this penetration is unprecedented in the history of the world and amounts to a literal invasion by an un-American and hostile force. The same year, 2003, that General Wesley Clark gave that warning that the United States government, civilian superstructure of the military, key military officers and special operators and intelligence personnel had been taken over by an Israeli neocon fifth column coup, Israel's own Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon, frustrated that his Middle East destabilization and domination plan wasn't going as well and as quickly as planned, declared that the United States had already conquered Iraq. Remember Bush's famous false and absurd premature mission accomplished speech from the deck of a Navy ship that same year, 2003? Ariel Sharon went on that it was time that the U.S. marched against Libya, Syria, and Iran. Note that President Obama has made Sharon's Libya demand already a reality, that the U.S. is now destabilizing Syria by supporting none other than al-Qaeda-affiliated Syrian so-called rebels, and that the war drums are building now for an attack on Iran. I do not believe it is a coincidence that the same lead actor who played in the movie Pearl Harbor, Ben Affleck, that prepared the ground for the American public to accept the, quote, new Pearl Harbor, unquote, meme for the inside job 9/11 attacks, just happens to be the producer, director, and leading actor of the new movie Argo, a transparent piece of Hollywood CIA propaganda which is intended to demonize Iran and prepare the American public to now accept a war against that final nation in the neocons' quickly falling row of Middle East dominoes.